Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. My apologies, guys. Last night, we were working on the red brick house, and it was really one of the first days that had been really, really warm, and I was working up in the ceiling in there, and my goodness, it was warm, and it was up and down the ladder. I went out, got something to eat, and when I came back, I fell out. I just fell the F out. Couldn't do my fireside chat. Of course, I don't have a fire here, but I couldn't even do my normal version of that. So forgive me. It was just, I was tired, boss. I was real tired. But we're back, and we're going to be going down working on the red brick house again. Major changes are happening every single day with that place. Oh, I'm so in love. I'm so in love with the red brick house. You just don't know. But anyway, interesting development right now. Last year, we ended up getting rid of all of our receivers, basically, with Amari Cooper and not re signing Cedric Wilson. And Cedric Wilson probably looks back now and says, damn, I miss being in Dallas. Um, we ended up not signing him. He signed, I believe, a $7 million a year deal with the Miami Dolphins before they got Tyreek Hill. I'm betting that they didn't think that they were going to be getting Tyreek Hill before they signed Cedric Wilson, because Cedric Wilson basically didn't really hit the field. And so now we're hearing that the Miami Dolphins are interested in trading Cedric Wilson. Now, here's the thing that's kind of interesting, because you can be interested in trading somebody, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. And most times, teams will look at it and say, we'll wait it out. We'll wait it out, because at some point, when you make a statement like that, more times than not, they end up getting cut. You know, the Raiders would have liked to have traded Derek Carr. They allowed him to go out and seek a contract offer, and he went to the Raiders, to New Orleans, and decided, you know what, I'm not going to help you out. I'm not going to really change my clause there. Got released. You look at us with, say, DeMarcus Ware. You know, we would have thought we would have liked to have traded him, but we ended up releasing him. And so you may have an opportunity to get him if he's released. And I'm betting that nobody's going to give up anything right now for Cedric Wilson. If it is, it's going to be a 7th-round draft pick. If Brandon Cooks wins for a 5th, you can't expect to think that we're going to get a 2nd round for that one. Especially when you got guys like Jerry Jeudy, guys out there, of course, DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, we're talking about the team potentially saying we're going to have to cut DeAndre Hopkins. So if you have to cut DeAndre Hopkins, what makes you think that somebody's going to trade for Cedric Wilson? And the question is, would you like to bring that guy back? Cedric Wilson, interesting thing about Cedric Wilson was Cedric Wilson actually had a really good season when he finally got his opportunity with Dak. The only problem with Cedric Wilson and Dak, and this is with the option routes and things and stuff like that happen, is a lot of times, and this may be because they didn't work together enough, is Cedric Wilson would be looking for the ball on one shoulder, the ball be coming on the other one. So there's miscommunications on where placement was supposed to be. I can't say it was a quarterback. I can't say it was a receiver. All we know is there were a lot of big play opportunities that he probably would have come down with had they been on the same page. And so that's one of those things that working together comes with time. And see, here's the thing about the NFL today is the NFL, you don't have much time to work together because there's only so many OTAs, only so many mini camps. Those numbers have all been reduced, and there's no longer two-a-days. And so getting that cohesion is hard to do, which is why I am so ecstatic about the fact that we have Brandon Cooks now. Dak, of course, has got his 50-yard field in his backyard. They've already been out there working on timing, getting to know each other, and working out. And I'm sure having fun at his house too. You know, we'd all like to go to Dak's house and play PlayStation and hang out at the pool and run around the football field. But to get that work together right now is going to pay dividends come the season. The problem with the Cowboys was James Washington never was healthy through OTAs, never healthy through training camp, and so that was late. And then you end up bringing in, um, God, can't think of him, from the Colts at the end of the season. This has actually been a good T.Y. Hilton. This has been good getting him in there early, and we'll see where we go from there. Some interesting news around the NFL. John Elway is out as far as being GM. They say that it's mutually agreed that after the season was over, that they were basically going to be moving on. And you kind of wonder if the new ownership basically said, we're looking at your track record since you brought in Peyton Manning at quarterback. And then, of course, we got Russell Wilson here that the new guy doesn't really want. And we've got the new guy here that may not want you as the GM. And so now he's gone. So there's that. And we are right now today, 3 weeks from today, friends, we are going to be headed to the draft. Game time, prime time, DMV, myself and David Wiley. We're going to be hitting the road for Kansas City because the draft is only 3 weeks and 1 day away. Everybody's got their mock drafts and their speculation and everything else. I have never been that mock draft guy because I'm like, if you got to put out 20 mock drafts, you basically covered every scenario that's there. And you could say, well, I told you we were going to draft. It's like, yeah, but you said we were also going to draft 26 other guys. So how is it really? I know. Game Time tells me, he says, look, Mark, it's about practice, not the draft. It's about practice to be able to handle every scenario that could happen. I'm like, okay, I got you. But in the meantime, between now and the draft in 3 weeks, the Dallas Cowboys, they're bringing in prospects. They have 30 visits of players, and they are, of course, bringing in those players. Now, here's the thing with the Cowboys. Generally speaking, they really like to get to know the guys that they bring in. They end up, generally speaking, you'll see more of the guys they drafted will be guys that have been by for a visit. So pay close attention to who they bring in. And let's listen to Jane Slater about the people that they brought in yesterday.
NFL now on NFL Network. That is Quentin Johnson, wide receiver, TCU. Biggest body wide receiver you could see in the first round. You could see him in Dallas. Lance Zierlein in his latest mock draft, now available on NFL.com. Front page. Go click it right now as the TCU wide receiver staying reasonably close to home. Jane Slater with us live now from Dallas as we try to make sense, Jane, of what the Cowboys might do by looking at who they're bringing into the Star on visits.
And real tricky this year because in years past, we've managed to sort of get our hands on that 30 list. They're keeping it a lot closer to the vest this year, Andrew, but we've at least been able to independently confirm and see some of the names reported. And if you look at the list, they're doing their due diligence across all positions. And I guess you can do that when you look at how successful they were at addressing positions of need through trades this offseason and free agency. Look at Stephon Gilmore at corner. And, of course, when you look at wide receiver, they've got Brandon Cooks. So where might they be looking? Well, it doesn't look like just because they did the Brandon Cooks thing that they're shying away from bringing in notable wide receiver prospects. This week we learned that Zay Flowers was coming in as well as Jalen Hyatt. So let's talk about those two. I find both of them very interesting because if you listen to Mike McCarthy, he wants wide receivers that can do a lot of different things for you. Zay Flowers is kind of this guy that's small, but also very much a slot receiver. But they're still bringing them in, and I think that that's notable. We'll see if they're both there at 26. There's certainly a possibility of that, but that is at least one position that we keep seeing them give looks, despite having guys like CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and now Brandon Cooks on the roster.
All right, so if not wide receiver, and it's always interesting, we spent the entire year talking about Odell Beckham, it didn't happen. Where else could the Cowboys possibly go, Jane, at 26?
I think offensive line's a safe bet, Andrew, and that's because when I was at the Combine talking to Stephen Jones, he told me you could never have enough offensive linemen, rather. Although,
wide receivers.
as we were just talking about it, they may have too many wide receivers. But offensive line is an area that they do need to address. You don't have Connor Govern there anymore, and they've got to figure out the future with Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith moved from left tackle to right tackle. They're still trying to figure out something with Terrence Steele. They're telling us that means Tyron Smith is going to move back over to left. You'll have Tyler Smith moving over at right. I don't know if I buy that. So who's a guy that they could be keeping an eye on? Well, I was just with them at his pro day. That is guard Steve Avila. And here's why he's interesting for them. This is a guy that can play all over the line. He's played guard, he's played center, and he's also played tackle. So Steve Avila, a guy to keep an eye on. And if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about him, he will be on Good Morning Football this Friday in New York. So that should be fun. He's got a big personality. I've enjoyed getting to know him.
And a big body.
Also, they consider him a more athletic Ron Leary. And they've had a hard time replacing Ron Leary in Dallas ever since he left.
And also, like Quentin Johnson from TCU did very well at the Senior Bowl.
All right, interesting. I would be ecstatic about us actually getting an offensive lineman, and of course a defensive tackle, because you can never ever have enough good linemen. Because whenever we end up losing one lineman, we start out with a good offensive line, but then all of a sudden we lose a guy, and then all of a sudden we're reshuffling and we're just stepping down. And for me, as opposed to everybody who wants to go get Bijan Robinson, that's more sizzle than substance. And an offensive guard, as we know, like Zach Martin, is definitely substance that you need to win. And I'm about winning. So that's all I've got this morning. It's kind of quiet right now. The calm before the storm. We'll be working over at the Red Brick House, and I'm as excited as I can be. Let me show you guys a couple of things here while I'm sitting here, because as we get this place together, I want you to look at this. This, my friends, right here, is a nail from the Red Brick House. This is 200 years old, and it was made by a blacksmith. And as I go through and I'm pulling out the nails in the ceiling and different places and out of the boards, you see no consistency as far as the nails go, because they were all handmade. Looking at the boards that were all cut in like a saw pit, all this stuff was built by hand. They didn't have the DeWalt cordless tools and things like that. And so for me, being part of this and going through and working with this stuff is just an amazing thing for me. And if you are into woodworking or history, or restoring history, definitely check out my other channel, Joe Boo's Day Job, because I come down here and we bust a hump for like 10-12 hours, and nonstop. Don't stop for lunch or anything else. Just stop to go to Home Depot and to the dump to get more materials to keep putting into this place. And we're pushing to try and get this thing done. And this is actually a piece of the Red Brick House. This is a piece of the wood from there that we salvaged. And that's what the Red Brick House looked like back in the day. We're going to get it back to that. All right, good people, I got to go to work. And I will see you later. Peace.